Welcome to Creative Cooking. Today we're going to make Rapini Fagioli, which is nothing more than broccoli rabe and beans. But it's an appetizer, and I'm going to show you how I like to prepare this. It's really good stuff. Because of the way we're going to serve it, we want to keep those leaf stalks as long as possible. So you want to cut it just above the node there, okay? And keep them just like that. And then as for the thick part, well, don't throw that away. A lot of people do. Just peel off the tough stuff on the outside of the stalk. It's very fibrous and stringy. Just like celery or just like broccoli, if you peel it, what's left is a nice tender inside that is actually sweeter than the leaves and the smaller stems, which tend to be more bitter. Now, one of the ways that we offset the bitterness for this is either with something that's sour or something that's sweet. And the bechamel is actually sweet compared to the vegetable, right? If that makes any sense, because it's made with milk, and milk has a certain natural sweetness to it. And as a result, that sauce that we make is going to, sort of tame that bitterness that you get from the rapini. And if you like rapini and you like that mild bitterness, then this is the perfect complement for it. As always, when I make bechamel, I only use half the liquid that I expect to use. This recipe ended up using just under 2 cups of whole milk with 2 tablespoons of flour, 2.5 tablespoons of butter. And of course, we're going to put in some nutmeg. That's traditional for bechamel, to put nutmeg. You can also add black pepper and white pepper. Then the beans. I chose pinto beans because that's the way I had it when I ate this at a restaurant. They're mild, they're nice and firm, and they just go well with that sauce, and they go well with the rapini. So, once again, I have that reserved milk. If I feel that it's too thick, I'll thin it out. We want it to be pourable, but we also want it to hold the beans. And we want to flavor that with some Parmigiano Reggiano, freshly grated. You can add more, or you can add less or none at all. But I find that the Parmesan cheese gives it a nice little flavor in the background. And then we'll season it with some salt, maybe a little bit of black pepper, or some white pepper, or red pepper. That's up to you. And just mix it all up. And at that point, your topping is done. So now we're going to cook the rapini in some olive oil, along with a couple of finely chopped cloves of garlic. And just go ahead and saute those for about a half a minute or so. And then throw in those peeled stalks that we put in. And remember, these are nice and tender, and they'll actually cook faster without that tough exterior, And then we'll go ahead, we'll put the leaves in there. And I'm cooking this the same way that I cook spinach. But you have to be mindful of what you're doing here, because even though we washed it and has some liquid on the outside, the vegetable itself doesn't have as much moisture as spinach does. So you end up having to add some water to this. So after you turn it over and you look underneath there, you'll notice that there isn't a whole lot of water. And really, the method of cooking here is steaming. So we don't want too much water, but we want enough. So after we season that with a little bit of salt and some red pepper flakes, we're going to add some water. And that's about a tablespoon there. But by the time it's said and done, you'll probably add 2 to 3 tablespoons of water. And leave that cover on nice and tight and let the steam develop under there. And this will take about 5 or 6 minutes. And once it's done, you can go ahead and season that with a little bit more olive oil, although that's not necessary. Then to serve it, we want to basically create a nest, and that's the reason why we kept the stalks nice and long. You can sort of form a little bird's nest. And it's in part for presentation, but also we want to create that little depression in the center so it can hold that white sauce with the beans in it, okay? So they don't spill all over the place. I mean, we do want to make it look nice, right? Okay? So go ahead, put as much or as little as you want on there, and then go ahead and dust that with a little more black pepper or red pepper and some freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano on top. And what you end up with is a appetizer sized portion here, but you could have this as a complete side dish if you wanted to. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you come back each week for more great videos made for people who like to cook. Until then, bon appetit.